So you know how Google would, send you notifications about different photos that you have saved up. And this picture popped up and I realized that this was the time I was actively trying to relocate to the UK. And that really got me thinking, and I spent so much time just reflecting on my journey so far and how I have just completely changed my life with a single decision. And I also thought about a lot of the things that I've learned along this journey. It's still a journey, by the way, but I thought to share some of them with you in this video. But before we start, I just want to say that if you have not subscribed to my channel, this is the time for you to do so. I have realized that well over 70% of the people that watch my videos are actually not subscribed. So please support your girl and subscribe to my channel. So for people that have been following my channel, you would remember that I relocated to the UK last year. And when I tell you a lot has changed in my life, you will not believe it. But what I'm going to do in this video is share just about 5 ways my life has completely changed, and also 5 lessons that I've learned from just going through this journey. And the first and most significant change for me was going from a tech founder back to the corporate life and now having a 9 to 5. And I know that, for a lot of people that uproot themselves from a location, or even if you don't uproot yourself from a location, even if you're in the same space, it is not an easy decision to let go of, your company and then go and now become an employee in another organization. There's so many things that will go through your mind when you are trying to make that decision, because it starts to make you feel like maybe you have failed in some sort, or maybe you're being downgraded. But for me, I think that I knew that I needed to make the move from Nigeria, which was my comfort zone. I knew that I wanted a change and I wanted it badly. I knew that, for me to be able to achieve some of the goals that I wanted in my life, that change was sort of necessary. So that's one of the major things that has changed in my life, just me adjusting to be back in the workforce. So you can imagine that you've always been an employer of labor. You're now the one on the other side of the table, now interviewing and seeking the acceptance of other people to hire you, and to determine how much you earn, what you do when you go to work, and all those kind of things. And I'm not gonna lie, it was an adjustment, but it's still one of the biggest changes I would say that I've had to make on this journey. Another big change for me was, having to live with other people in a house when, I had a whole 2-bedroom apartment to myself in Ikoyi in Lagos State. For people that are not familiar with Nigeria, Ikoyi is one of the posh areas, right? And I had a very decent 2-bedroom apartment, and I had to relocate to now start to live with 3 other people in an apartment. And I remember my first or second day of moving into the apartment, I didn't have all my things because obviously I just moved in, and I asked one of the housemates if I could borrow his pot. And I remember the very short but long enough pause that made me feel like, oh no, this guy didn't, feel comfortable with me asking him to, borrow me his pot. Because his response was more like, yeah, you can use it. But then when he opened the dishwasher and brought out a plastic spatula, asking me that I needed to use that spatula for his pot because it's a non-stick pot, that made me feel somehow. And I remember feeling like, hey, me. Do you understand? Because I'm asking to borrow your pot and everything. But I guess, it is part of the changes that one may have to make when you are, exiting your comfort zone to now go to a different area. There are things that you may not like, or maybe things that you feel like may be beneath you, that you may have to suffer through because of the goal that you want to achieve. Another big way that my life has changed as well is just being surrounded with family and friends to now learning to navigate life alone. Even though I don't have such a big family or a lot of friends, but if people around me were my people and people that I trusted the most, and being away from them was a struggle, especially for my sisters that were like really close knit. And I think one of the toughest parts of being away from the people that are really your people is when you're going through stuff. Especially when I was like job hunting and I was getting a lot of rejections. It was really tough at that time. And even though, yes, you can talk to the people that you care about on the phone, it still wasn't the same as, having them around you or being able to go over to their place and just hang out with them. That's like one way that I know that my life has changed. I've always been around at least my sisters growing up, and it's the first time that I feel like we're now like finally being separated from each other. And that was a big change for me. Another huge way that my life has changed is from just allowing life to happen to me to now being very intentional about life. Even when I had a 9 to 5 prior to even like becoming an entrepreneur, I have always allowed other people to dictate my life and the trajectory of my life, even though I have ended up in a more positive position. But it's still very hard for me to even think about how things could have gone because I didn't choose the career that I have right now. It sort of just happened. I've never had a say in the choice of my career or how and where I want to take my career. They've always sort of happened to me by accident. I studied engineering in school and I never practiced, and it was a case of, hey, I just wanted a job and then found myself in banking, and then the rest is history. And I have never been in control of anything that I did. It's more like if there are extra things that needed to be done, I would be there to do it. And that was how I picked on a lot of the things that I know today. And I really started to think about, what if I actually curated career and curated the things that I was trying to learn, and even like being very intentional about where I wanted to be and how much I wanted to earn. Money was never at the forefront of the things that I wanted in life. I always had money. I was comfortable, but it was not the thing that I thought about. You know how people feel like, oh, this is how much they want to earn. I never had such goals. That maybe people will think about, how they want to retire or when they want to retire. I absolutely had no such goals. I was just living. But even though it looks like I have done extremely well for myself, and I have done extremely well for myself, I can only imagine where, my life could have been if I was very intentional about the things that I was doing. Another huge way that my life has changed is, I think for the longest time, I've always wanted to be the person who would do all the work in the background and not even want anyone to talk about me or not put myself out there. And I remember that I used to have this huge fight with my former boss then, always telling him, don't talk about me in meetings, don't talk about the work that I've done, just leave me alone. Yes, I did this work overnight, and you don't have to talk about it in the morning, during meetings about, what I did. I always felt under pressure, even when promotions would come. I just wanted to just be normal, right? I didn't want any attention. Even my choice of clothing was literally like black and white. I wouldn't wear any colors because I didn't want to stand out, and I just wanted to do my work. But as you can't cover up the sun. It will always shine through. Ooh, did I just compare myself to the sun? Anyways, I think that one of the things that I was so scared of was putting myself out there And when I decided to start a YouTube channel, I was really scared about just being online and just putting a lot of information out there. But I am so thankful for that experience and how the journey so far has just changed my life. I never would have met certain people that I have met if I didn't start a YouTube channel. And I never would have had the opportunity to be an inspiration to some people if I didn't start a YouTube channel. And the benefit for me has been worth it. I am still a bit conscious, I'm not gonna lie, but it's been worth it. So now to the lessons that I've learned so far. So one of the biggest lessons for me would be that on the other side of your comfort zone is growth. And growth is very important. Growth can be very painful. It can be very uncomfortable, but it is very essential to life. If I didn't take the decision to leave Nigeria, I wouldn't even know that I was capable of doing some of the things that I'm doing now. And I'm so thankful that I had the opportunity to leave that comfort zone and just take the leap of faith and relocate to the UK. Another important lesson for me is just to make sure that you surround yourself with the right kind of people. I made a video the other day, talking about how you are the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. And I remember when I just moved and I was talking to some friends about how much salary I was targeting while I was still job hunting. And some of them made me feel bad that I was dreaming too big. And they started to tell me about the average salary of people in the UK. And I just couldn't wrap my head around why I should aim that low. Even if I was going to settle for something that low because I needed to make ends meet. But I shouldn't be aiming that low. And I remember that I started to feel like at a point that maybe I was actually dreaming too big, until I reached out to a couple of friends as well outside of the UK, my classmates who I knew were working also in tech, and I asked them how much their salaries were, and then they told me, and I was like, what I was aiming for, that people were making me feel like I was dreaming too big, was actually like a really low bar compared to my friends. And that gave me a lot of courage to start to ask for what I really felt like I deserved. And I'm thankful that by the time I got my very first offer, it was even way above what I was initially targeting, that people were making me feel like I was dreaming too big. So it's very important that you realize that everybody's journey is different and people may project, but it's important to have people around you who can encourage you to go for the things that you really want, who don't make you feel like, you're dreaming too big. If I didn't have those people around me who made me feel like I was even aiming too low for what I was even asking, I probably would have ended up taking something much lower than I deserved in the first place. Another important lesson that I've learned in this journey is that everything is a phase and nothing is permanent. And yes, when you're feeling a lot of pain, when you have to maybe go through some temporary rough time, it's never permanent. And I know that it's hard really to see beyond the pain that we're feeling and the rough path that we're going through when we're going through them. But I think it's still always important to remember that at a point, this is going to be over and you're going to be able to tell this story much later. And the part where I was talking about living in a shared apartment with multiple people, I'm no longer living in a shared apartment right now. And at the point when I was living with other people, it might look like, hey, I really don't want this life. But when you realize that everything is a phase and eventually there's always that light at the end of the tunnel, it's always important. It's the same way, like if you relocate, for example, and you are maybe looking for a job and it's taking a long time, it might seem like your world is crumbling down, but eventually you will find something if you keep at it, and then you'll be able to tell the story much later on. Just how life is, the graph of life is not straight. There's always ups and downs. So when you realize that this is a phase, then it'll be easier for you to just endure a bit of uncomfortable situations that you find yourself in. One other lesson that I've learned is that isolation can be a good thing. I think that if we didn't have the lockdown in Nigeria, I probably wouldn't be here, because that time of just being alone, not being able to go out, spending a lot of time in my head, helped me to put a lot of things in perspective, and it helped me to really think about what I wanted to do in my life, where I wanted to go, and how I felt like I had not really put myself first. I had always, prioritized other people in my life but myself. If I didn't spend that time by myself, I probably wouldn't have taken the decision to say, hey, maybe I should actually, explore the option of leaving Nigeria. And I think that even moving here alone and living alone, I have been able to spend a lot of time to really reflect on a lot more goals that I want for myself. And isolation sometimes, just being able to be by yourself and think through some of the things that you want to do, is always a good thing at the end of the day. It might look like, it's a bit lonely sometimes, but you can always turn that around into something good and spend some time by yourself to reflect and think and take decisions or do stuff that you need to do at the end of the day. Another lesson that has come through for me in this whole journey is that you can do anything that you put your mind to. It may sound like a cliche, but it is actually very true that when we put our minds to stuff and we work at it and we're very consistent at it, eventually it will pan out. And even if it doesn't pan out, you will start to see that you would start to find opportunities and maybe lessons that you've learned from that experience that you can use in other places. So many times we are our own biggest critic, and we're very hard on ourselves, especially when we're trying to take decisions. And sometimes it may be that, maybe we tried something in the past and it didn't work out, or maybe it didn't work out for someone that we know about. And then because of that, we don't try to do certain things, and we doubt ourselves, we doubt our abilities. I have learned on this journey that anything that I put my mind to, I can totally achieve it if I go for it. And even when I'm afraid, I have learned that I will feel the fear, but I will still do it anyways. Because, you think about it, nobody really has life figured out. Everyone is literally just winging it and hoping for the best. So just having that at the back of my head, that everyone that is trying something new is literally just trying to figure it out. Yes, you would have strategies, you would have plans, but it may not work out, and it may work out. It just depends on how bad you want it, because if you want it really bad, even if you fail, you will try again. You will try different methods to make sure that you achieve the goal that you want to. So I just thought to share some of these lessons with you. And if you are thinking of making a big change in your life, and it really doesn't have to do with maybe a relocation, it could be anything that you're thinking about, just know that you can do it. It may look like a very daunting task in the beginning, but you need to realize that the most difficult step is the first step. And once you take the first step, you're one step closer to achieving your goals. Anyways, I've come to the end of this video. If you have enjoyed this video, you know what to do. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. And I'll see you next time. Bye.